Good evening, it's 6 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting to order. Time is 6 o'clock. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Motion reads that the agenda for the council meeting of Monday, June 5th, 2023 be approved as amended. Oh, as accepted.
Thank you.
Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Young, Councillor Lockett. Any discussion on the agenda? Favor? Item 3 is declaration of interest. We have a declaration tonight.
I'd like to declare a declaration of interest for agenda item 12.4.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Before we continue, I just want to welcome all our guests. We have Ms. Burchill and Mr. Davis from the Legion. We have Brett McAllister and Lynn Norton from Laughs at the Leo. We have Billy Davidson and her family as well, and Mr. Vince Ford, retired entrepreneur. And for the public, we're always open, so if anyone wants to come and join our meetings, you're more than welcome. Item 4 is presentation. So we have 2 presentations tonight. The first one will be Brent McAllister and Lynn Norton for Laughs of Leo.
Brent and I got together pre-COVID, planned a dinner to support the new arena, and we canceled it once. Yeah. But we had it almost a year ago in a day. And we wrapped up all the bookkeeping. We're here tonight to give you some money.
Excellent.
We still take it. So our net proceeds are $99,616.
Wow.
A big part of the night for this guy, you know, and a lot of work. I mean, people like it's interesting when organizing something called Prescott in Ottawa. And when the rink was decommissioned back in 2018, Lynn said, we should think about doing something to raise money to help the town.
Hold on, one second.
Oh,
My mom, who's some of you probably Ruth Norton, one of our friends, a gentleman named Terry Payne, who I went to school with, passed away. And she said, it's wrong that all you people are all over the place and you never get together. So at the Prescott Hotel in Ottawa, I would say probably about 2016 or 17, we started every April, the last Senator's home game, Prescott at the Prescott. And we're up to about 65 people.
Wow.
And a lot of those people supported this night.
absolutely. Yeah. A lot of help from everybody. Well, I'd like to thank the town. Matthew was very supportive. The arena committee that was very supportive in selling tickets and getting into the auction. I see some faces that got to enjoy that night. I hope you guys had a great time.
We did.
It was a lot of fun, and we're just happy to help.
Thank you very much. That's awesome. And that's way more than we thought. So that's great. Good for the books. Can we get a picture?
Sure.
So let's do that. Yep. Veronica, you going to do double duty?
Yeah. Good job. Oh, all of us?
Yeah, well.
You want to?
I did up front.
Up front. Show us the money.
That'd be great.
I wanted to let them get in.
I know. I do.
Amazing fellas. I listened to a couple phone calls while you guys worked your magic. You guys did awesome.
Hold that.
Here. Get my good
It's
side.
not gonna be right over.
Great.
Yours now.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm a Beaumont Watch.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Straight up, Matthew.
He's
Thank
only
you.
there
39
39 years.
Good time.
Every 5 days, every 5 years I can start that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Always nice to meet you. What a way to
Now
start.
listen, just before you gentlemen leave, if you just want to throw another event in a couple of years, just
That's what I said.
the heck of it, just to throw another great party, by all means. Sure, we can find a cause.
At the new rink, we can do that.
There you go.
Full circle.
Perfect. That's how you do it.
That's where.
Thank you.
Take care. I hope that was.
Okay,
Finish in another building.
that's not.
Water tower.
So we have a special presentation today. We have young Billy Davidson in the audience. Billy reached out to the town's bylaw department to apply for a license to sell used toys and lemonade. So, bylaw?
Yes, this was a little bit out of the blue, and it was nice to see her parents teaching her the importance of when you live in a community that you reach out to make sure that you understand all the rules before you just start doing something. And so with the fact that we were passing, or hopefully passing tonight, a new mobile vendor bylaw, coupled with the fact that, like I said, I was very much touched about the fact that they reached out just to make sure that everything was okay. Then they were just showing her the proper way to do things when you live in a community. And I was really touched by it. And so I passed it on to Lindsay, who thought it would be a good idea to make sure that we presented her with the license and with the proper pomp and ceremony that it deserved.
So we'd like to invite you up and present you with your license.
That's how I felt when I first met him. Then he snapped my neck.
So we have this one here. This is your license, okay? And then this is a scroll with your name on it. And it says, on behalf of the town of Prescott, I'm delighted to present you with a certificate in recognition of your entrepreneurial spirit and enthusiasm to comply with our municipal permitting processes. Wishing you a bright future and much success. So maybe you'll have a Prescott pop-up one day.
Next year.
For you, so we'll get a picture. Does anyone else want to come in the picture? Just please, come on up.
Justin, sit down, you don't want to scare them.
Very nice, Billy. Want to turn?
Nice thinking. I'll stay at this end.
There, now you can see. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Be nice. Yeah.
And then have a little. So don't tell anyone.
Okay, way to go, Greg.
Wait, don't tell me.
So thank you so much for the way you did it.
So what days are you open?
Oh, that's perfect too.
What
Very
days,
nice.
what days is your stand open?
My son.
On the weekends? Okay, I'm sure we'll all come by and grab a lemonade.
Nice.
Right down at the end of the Leo boiler, so.
Yes.
Perfect. We'll find her.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Two nice feel-good stories there.
Really?
Okay.
More to go.
Keep coming.
Item 5.1 is a delegation from the Royal Canadian Legion. Ms. Birchall, all yours.
I don't have a check. As you know, at Fort Wellington Branch Legion, we've entered into a rather large fundraising campaign. And we have asked all businesses, groups, and corporations within the town of Prescott and area for donations. You know that our mandate is to provide a warm and welcoming place for the veterans and members of the public. What you may not know is that we serve the entire community, including youth and seniors. We host events for all groups, and we do it all on volunteers. Right now, we find ourselves in a precarious financial position due to the age of the building and the repairs that are required. I'm sure a lot of you remember when the large hall was added on some 40 years ago. And because it was all done at the same time, everything is wearing out at the same time. We're looking at a major repave of the parking lot, a major rebuild of our handicap sidewalk, and I found out this past week that our stoves are on their way out. And if we can't cook, we can't make any money. What we're doing is we're starting a Legion Hero campaign. And anyone who sponsors us, their name would go on a plaque in the hallway to be seen for as long as the building stands. So what we've done is we've come to ask town council if there's any way that you could help us out financially. We have applied for a Trillium grant. We were turned down based on last year's income, which was based on the year before's COVID grants, which made our income inflated on paper. The grants kept the doors open and kept the bills paid, but it showed up as too much income to qualify for the Trillium grant. So what we're hoping is that maybe you would discuss it and let us know if there's any way that the town can help us out. We are here to ask humbly, and we thank you for seeing us.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have questions?
Do they have?
Councilor Collins?
Do you have, that's just throwing some money at you for I think personally anyway, since I was part of the committee that delegates or at least recommends to council money that we give out in the community. Some of the things, for example, you mentioned stoves, what are they worth? Your sidewalk, what is it worth? The parking lot, how much it's going to cost? So you might one of those things.
We have had quotes done on the equipment and the needs. The heating and cooling system came in at a little over $30,000. The parking lot quote was $92,000. The stoves, I did find out last week we could use ones and they made $6,000. We have done our due diligence. We've gotten out to all the contractors and got quotes. So I can submit those on paper if you like.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other?
Councilor Larkin?
I was basically the same. Do you have any specifics in mind? And I heard what you said about the used stove, but do you have a price for a new stove?
No, I did ask for a quote on a new stove. We, because of our situation, we were looking more toward the used, but it would be the stove, the grill, and the fryers. So I dealt with a company called Daily and Daily that came last week and looked at what we had and our hookups, and they're gonna get back to us this week with a quote on both the exact for the used and for the new.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Veronica, just one question. Do you have what needs to be done first, kind of like is it all at once? Or?
No, we managed to get the parking lot patched. When they were working on Dibble Street, we chased them down and actually had them come down and do some patching on the parking lot, which cost us around $1,000 and got the major potholes taken care of. So that could wait. The heating and cooling, right now there's no air conditioning, and it was pretty brutal last week, and we've got some events coming up. We've had, again, someone come in and look at it that said we need a new transformer and we need some other work done to the system. In the upstairs in the old hall, over top of the lounge, we can't shut the heat off. I have no idea why. I'm not versed in those things, but it's very, very warm up there. And like I said, the stoves would be a priority because we use that kitchen as our main source of income aside from hall rentals.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. The building wise, though, structure is good.
Structure's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just them items that you bring up that are the main concern. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and so far from our campaign, we've raised $8,000 from sponsors, and in-house, we've raised $6,200 through events since March that we could set aside for these projects, aside from the ongoing upkeep, the regular events that keep the bills paid.
Good. Thank you.
So we're trying, we're working hard.
Yep.
Did I see somewhere that you guys are trying to raise 100,000? Is that the goal?
Yes.
That's the goal, right?
That's our goal. Yes, we've given ourselves a couple of years to do that, but that would be our eventual goal.
And you have a $100 club, I saw.
We have a $100 club right now. We've printed 100 tickets at $100 a piece. half the money is turned back into prize money, which would run for 4 months. Every week for 4 months, there would be a draw, which would realize $5,000 for us and $5,000 to give back. Usually anything we do like that, we try and make sure that we're giving as well as trying to raise money.
Great. Any other questions?
If anyone would like a ticket on the $100 club, pop down.
Yeah.
Are you category, like you have a charitable organization number?
No, we do not.
So you're not a nonprofit?
We fall in a gray area. According to CRA, we are a business. According to Legion standards, we are a not-for-profit. We have one paid employee at this time, everyone else is a volunteer.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Thank you. We'll get back to you.
Thank you for your time.
No problem.
It'd be categorized as not for profit.
That's what I'm thinking, the 100 women. To nominate them for the 100 women.
Might be tough.
It might be.
That's just win. Get them out of the,
Yeah.
that's not a problem.
Matthew, do we still have room in our community grant money?
We do capital improvements such as parking lots, things like that wouldn't qualify. It's possible stove might.
Right? Okay. That might be something if we can do that.
They mentioned their sidewalks have to be redone for handicap. I'm wondering, we probably get a better deal on cementing than they do. Could we get that done possibly, or at least provide them with the same amount of dollar wise? Do you think that would, do you know what I'm mumbling about trying to say here?
We got a project in the area that would.
Well, we do sidewalks every year.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So I think it's internal to their property is the sidewalks they're referring to. But certainly we'll reach out and find out exactly what their quotes look like and see how we can possibly put them in contact with somebody.
Thank you, Mayor Shaker. Would they qualify for the CIP program?
I have to go back and take a look it would depend on the zoning of the property, those types of things. So certainly let me take a look and determine that.
Good point. Good point.
Eligible right now, that's why I didn't.
I'm not sure, so I'll have to go back and check.
No, I mean, is it even open to apply to at the moment, if the existing program?
That's currently a gray area.
Yeah, that's why.
On a gray area.
Yeah, a lot of gray area.
So do we want to, are we going to look into it further? We want to help them, sounds like.
Further discussion.
It's just finding a suitable number that we can do.
Yep. So there's a couple of things. Right now, the community grant applications are open, so certainly encourage them to do that. The Trillium grant is open until I believe next week. Certainly encourage them to apply for that as well. Then CIP, as soon as we deal with the outstanding issue that we have, we'll determine if that's applicable. And so I think those would be kind of what the go forward steps would be, and taking a look at those three avenues.
Sounds good. They've got a 2-year window, so we don't have to decide tonight.
Sound like their fryers were in bad need. Sound like their fryers and stoves are pretty needy.
Yeah, it's essential, and the heat.
The heat,
Like, obviously,
yeah.
I'm surprised they can't.
Heat off, you're spending money on whatever they're heating by. They don't have cooling systems for your product to run in the summer, but air conditioning in the building that size.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Item 6 is minutes of the previous council meeting. Motion reads that the council minutes dated May 15, 2023, be accepted as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councilor Burton and Councilor Kirkby. Any discussion on the previous minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Pass, thank you. 6.2 is tri-council minutes. Motion reads that the tri-council minutes dated May 25th, 2023 be accepted as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Campbell and Councillor Lockett. Any discussion? All in favor? Seven is communications and petitions. There was a thank you I left with you, just from the United Way, Jane Hess. So I just left it with Lindsay. She can add it to our next consent agenda. Item 8 is consent reports. Under consent reports, there's an information package. Are there any items in that package that you'd like to separate out to discuss? Councilor Young?
Thank you, Mayor Schenker. Number 16 from Lanark County. First responders.
Yeah, supporting first responders from assaults.
Yes.
Pull that up for next meeting. Anyone else? You, Councilor?
Yes, it is. It's the city of Cambridge with the Highway Traffic Act and the use of automated speed. Can't remember what the other one is, but
Number 8,
yeah.
amending the Highway Traffic Act. Is that the same one in about 5 of these?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll pull the City of Cambridge one out. Anyone else? So the consent report has been amended. The mover and seconder, are you okay with the amending? Yep. Sorry,
You haven't even seconded yet.
no? All right, I need a mover and a seconder with the amended report. Councilor Burton, Councilor Young. Any further discussion? All in favor? Perfect, thank you. Item 9 is committee reports. There are 2 reports from the Planning Advisory Committee. Item 9.1, PAC Report 04-2023 is a site plan agreement application regarding the Quality Inn Hotel. This report is for information only. Matthew, do you want to speak to the report?
Certainly, thank you very much. So, remember we talked about this previously, I think in the December, January timeframe. And at that point, we went through the process of dealing with the minor variances that Committee of Adjustment had reviewed. This is simply the site plan, and after we've finished all of our peer reviews of the various reports, such as the stormwater management, geotechnical, the servicing, things like that, then we're able to bring forward the site plan. Change last year in one of the many bills that changed parts of the Planning Act is that it no longer goes through council for approval, but we did commit to still going to Planning Advisory and the council for information and feedback. So that's really what's before you this evening. And we're happy to say that it has gone through all of the peer review. It meets all of the planning and zoning standards, and we'll be proceeding forward with a site plan agreement shortly.
Great. Is there any discussion? We've gone through this a few times. Okay, item 9.2 is PAC Report 05-2023, a zoning bylaw amendment for Development Drive. The recommendation reads that council adopt a zoning bylaw amendment under section 34 of the Planning Act to change the subject lands discussed from a highway commercial C2 to a general industrial zone M1. Can I get a mover and seconder for discussion purposes? Deputy Mayor Campbell and Councillor McConnell. Matthew?
Thank you very much. So what you have before you this evening is the final part that we have to approve and move forward with in relation to a sale of a 10-acre parcel that is immediately west of the OPP station on the north side of Development Drive. So back in the fall, we entered an agreement to purchase that 10-acre parcel broken down into 4 2.5-acre parcels. And part of the terms and condition of that agreement is to rezone it from the C2 to M1. And M1 is industrial general use. So that's what you have before you this evening. They have passed all of their other terms and conditions of the agreement as we have fulfilled ours. And then this is the final step to that. Thank you.
Great. Any questions? Yes, Councilor McMorro?
Is there any sign of immediate or future timing wise development there? You can tell us about?
I believe they're starting to work on their various site plan application studies, things like that. And I believe their hope is to put shovel in the ground in 2024.
The only reason I asked is we've done this before.
Right.
Nothing happens and we wind up having to rezone it again for something else, so. Should do due diligence to make sure something is actually going to happen if we're going to take the time and the money to rezone it.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Number 10 is mayor. Been a busy couple of weeks, lots of meetings, lots going on, and this week there's Joint Services Committee. I know there's a few meetings that another councillor will discuss a lot of these meetings. But good. Poutine Fest was quite successful, Dana, and I think the first two weeks or 3 weeks now, the pop-ups has been very successful. Lots of good feedback. People are coming to Prescott. You're hearing like this is as busy as it's ever been. So it's very nice to see with questionable weather too. So I'm very excited for the rest of the summer. All right, we're going to move on to outside boards committees. And first, we're going to start with Councillor Burton from the Planning Advisory Committee on May 23rd. Get that one.
Nice. The planning advisor, we just went through it actually, through the hotel, and no, it was a very good meeting, and there wasn't a lot of questions. One of the feedback was they really liked the green space that we're providing for the residents in that area. So, but other than that, it's all good. It was a really good meeting.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Deputy Mayor Campbell, you want to speak on the Police Services Board from May 24th?
Sure. So we had our Police Service Board meeting. We voted to continue to give South Grenville High School 2 commencement awards, as we have in the past, at $250 each. So those are awards given to students who they qualify. Are thinking of going into police.
Yeah.
Or have the aptitude towards that. The commencement ceremony is June 27th at 5 p.m. Voted on. They are also working with the Alzheimer's Society Leonard Leeds Grenville on program Lifesaver, which is like a GPS system for those who wander. If they're wearing the apparatus, then they will be more easily found than if you're just looking for someone out in the woods without the tracking. So they're starting to work in partnership with the Alzheimer's Society. That's police services. Can I talk fire admin as well? Sure. Okay, thank you. So the Prescott Fire and Rescue Department is having a firefighter recruitment information night. Whether you know or not, we have a volunteer fire department that's the envy of many communities out there to volunteer, and so they're just trying to continue their recruitment situation. It's open to anyone over age 18. It is on Tuesday, June 20th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the fire hall. And just come for information. You can look at the jaws of life, how that works. There's hoses, there's ladders, trucks, all those kind of things. So they're hoping to get that out there and get some recruitment going.
Did you say that's, June 20th? Okay,
Tuesday, June 20th, 6 to 9 p.m.
thank you. Good. Okay, thank you. Counselor Young, I have you down for the Planning Advisory Committee of June 1st.
Yes, that was a very brief meeting.
Very brief.
We were just looking at a sign, variance application. Unfortunately, we had to deny the application.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else have a committee report?
Yeah, I have a couple, actually. The health unit, we met last week, and they were recognizing some past board members for their years of service to the health unit. Ann Warren, who has been a counselor in Gananoque and many other things, she was one of the recipients, and she apparently had 19 years on the health unit in Brockville. Jeff Earl was another one that received an appreciation award. And Cheryl Smith, who was appointed by the province, she had a specific term, her term was done. The other thing you've already touched on, the Tri-County, I thought was very good to come together with so many joint interests and concerns, and I think to sort of have just an open conversation is really beneficial to all of us. But the other thing I attended, and it was extremely emotional for me, was the Relay for Life at South Granville High School on Friday morning. They started off at 11 o'clock. And like, as you all know, it's like 100 degrees. And there was probably 800 or 900 students and teachers and staff there. But the students, they put a lot into it, and they had a lot of emotional topics that they talked about, and people that had been affected in their life with cancer. And they raised $71,000. So well done to students at South Granville.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think they're at almost 73 right now.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think Councillor Kirkby said that the most they ever got before was 40,000. So that's remarkable. We're going to invite them to come maybe next week, and we'll present them with a thank you scroll and recognize their achievements.
Good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? All right. Sorry, Councillor McConnell.
Given that Ruth has brought up the tri-council meeting, it reminds me that Prescott took a bit of a shot from the mayor of Augusta. You may remember about our 40-kilometer-per-hour speed limit.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, well, I took the opportunity, you may recall, to return the shot in regards to the ridiculously low speed limit between here and Brockville through Augusta Township. We've had innumerable complaints, but you hear it all the time. And I was told that it wasn't Augusta Township. It was United Counties.
Yep.
So, as our representative on United Counties, would it be appropriate if the town of Prescott was to pass some kind of a motion asking them to reconsider the speed limit on number 2 highway in certain areas? I mean, I've witnessed several almost accidents because people are passing on a double line because somebody is actually going 60 kilometers per hour on what used to be an 80. I think we should make our concerns known to United Counties on it. And I would leave that up to staff to come up with something appropriate that we could have a look at.
I do have
a good note, though, if I may, on a good note, ending on a positive note, I was talking to Councillor Waddy Smale from Edwardsburg Cardinal before the meeting, and he indicated that he had contributed twice our 40-kilometer-per-hour speed limit as we come into town from the east. So
fine twice?
Yeah. So thank you, Councillor Waddy Smale.
I have a meeting tomorrow, and I'll have an informal conversation, and then I'll come back and see what we can do.
Fair enough, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Just have one. Councillor Young and myself attended the application for expression of interest at the Prescott Family Health Team. And really what it was kind of a brainstorming and them trying to get some support. And I believe the town's already sent a letter for support.
Yep.
But on the funding that's going to be available to these health providers. And the one big thing that stood out, and maybe that's where the town could really target Councillor Steve Clark and his team, is we don't want everything centralized in Brockville, right? We need healthcare in Prescott, right? And Augusta and neighboring, right? Cardinal Edwardsburg versus, the feeling I think on the street, and the feeling always is that a lot of the money goes up to Brockville and then everything is centralized up there for any kind of services. I think for Prescott especially, we need more healthcare services in town. So I don't know if there's something that we can formally put more strength to it to ensure that they're recognized or considered for funding.
I think that's a general concern of all of the mayors on United Counties in this area, because every little spot is looking for healthcare teams.
Right.
I think Roger Haley was complaining because they used to have a virtual clinic.
Yeah.
And that got yanked now. So I think that the warden is trying to put a delegation together for the next conference, like AMO conference.
Right.
Is that AMO that's next in August? Oh, good, I got that. So I think there is that, but I'll make a note of that too and see something we can do as well.
Yeah, I think, considered rural,
Okay.
right? And that's maybe something that could help us, right?
Matthew, are we considered rural? I thought we went through this, that we're not considered rural.
So from the provincial's standpoint, when they determine what municipalities are rural and underserved, the town of Prescott isn't, nor is Augusta or Edwardsburg Cardinal, or South Dundas is. So it's certainly something that we would like to bring up with both the minister as well as the applicable ministries to determine exactly how that's arrived at and to reconsider this area in particular.
Yeah, if I remember correct, we had that conversation a long time ago. So is there something that we need to do there, Matthew, or to put a motion to the minister?
Certainly, I think if you'd like, we can put a draft motion that kind of speaks to that and exactly how that could be redetermined and relooked at.
Maybe that's something brought to Tri-Council, if they're all in the same boat, if we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, that might be a good initiative for Tri-Council.
To get that,
Because sometimes it's trying to find physicians to come to rural areas. There's funding for that, right? And we don't qualify since we're not considered rural, which is crazy, but yeah. So
they may be open to more opportunities is also kind of what we learned in that meeting, if you're delegated rural.
Okay. Good chat. Anything else? Okay, we're good. We're gonna move on to staff reports. First one is 12.1, staff report 39-2023, council remuneration working group recommendations. Recommendation reads that council directs staff to prepare the bylaw for council remuneration based on the recommendations of the working group as outlined in staff report 39-2023, and that the bylaw come to the council meeting of June 19th, 2023 for final discussion and consideration. Can I get a mover and seconder for discussion? Councillor Burton, Councillor Rocket, Matthew?
Thank you very much. So earlier this year, we were going through the operational budget, and part of that is council budget in particular. So there was some interests expressed in taking a look at council remuneration. And part of our previous bylaw was that it's supposed to be reviewed in each term of council. So more recently, we did strike a group of community members, and that was Bonnie Pigeon, who's the executive director of the South Grenville Food Bank, the Jim Hutton, who's a current member of Committee of Adjustment and past member of the Planning Advisory Committee, as well as Kevin Spencer, who is the current chair of the South Grenville Chamber of Commerce. So we met on May 24th, reviewed exactly what the current remuneration looks like for council, took a look at how it compares to all of those other municipalities in Leeds and Grenville, and then did a more focused look at the town of Gananoque, Township of Augusta, and the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal. The town of Augusta, town of Gananoque is very similar to us in terms of size of the municipality. It is both single-tier municipalities, single-tier versus two-tier. Two-tier mayors receive what they receive from their municipality, but they also receive an additional $27,500 from the United Counties for sitting on United Counties Council. So it is a little bit different when we take a look at two-tier versus single-tier. And then also when we take a look at the services being offered and overall land size and population, that really, when we come down to it, Gananoque is usually not just for council remuneration, but across the board across our various departments. We also took, obviously, a look at our two closest neighbors, Augusta and Edwardsburg Cardinal, and we saw a large range of differences between all the municipalities and exactly what they offer from a council remuneration perspective. So there was 4 options that we took a look at. One is simply keeping the way it is now, and with the yearly annual increases tied to the consumer price index. Moving forward, where the overall base amounts are the same as they are now, but the cost of living or annual increases tied to Omer's pension or staff salary increases. Or we could move to the average of all the United Counties municipalities. We could move to the Gananoque remuneration model, which is what we did in 2016, when this was last overhauled, is that we took a look at Gananoque and moved to their model at that point, or create an entirely new model. I think not wanting to reinvent the wheel, number 4 wasn't an applicable road that the group wanted to go down. Certainly through the comparators, it was noted that our councillor pay in particular was considerably lower than the average. And then when we took a look at what looks like a good model, then we came back to the Gananoque one. So also the working group was cognizant of the fact that the increase would be substantial in 1 year in terms of the total budget impact, and so made a recommendation to phase it in over 2 years. So 50% of the increase in 2023 and 50% of the increase in 2024. And with that, we would match the Gananoque annual increases again tied to the consumer price index. So that's what I've brought before you this evening. The financial impact is that it's approximately $7,500 higher than what was budgeted for 2023. That being said, we do believe we can absorb it as part of other areas of savings and efficiency in the operational budget, not just the council budget, but the budget overall. So that's the report. I'm more than happy to answer any questions there might be.
Thank you, Matthew. Any questions for Matthew?
Really a question, but so originally when we started this, it was like, wow, we were a little bit shocked. But now that we've been here for 6 months, I think most of us have got a bit of a wake-up call to how much time goes into this and how much is expected of us and how much we actually do that nobody sees, which I'm fine with. But we have a committee set aside to do this, and we operate on the basis that a lot of these committees are what we base our information on. So if we're not going to pay attention to this particular committee, then it's a waste of their time, and it's basically a waste of our time. So I think we need to follow their lead, and I think that I agree. Gananoque model looks the best to me.
Councillor Burton?
Thank you. I just wanted to echo Councillor Lockett comments. I mean, and I think that's why we started this process, and in the beginning, when I brought it up, I mean, it's always a touchy situation, right? You know, but, you know, your comment says true. You know, a wake-up call, because you don't realize until you're already in the pool, right? You left your life jacket out here, but you're already in. So, anyways, I want to thank the working group for all their time and energy spent on this, and staff as well. And I think the recommendations is something that we should go with as well.
Thank you, Councillor Burton. Anyone else? Councillor Kirkland?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Shankar. The one thing I'd say is I agree with both councillors that are speaking. You know, the one thing that we have to be willing to do, though, is sometimes challenge committees, right, that are formed, right? I don't know if we always need to agree with the recommendations of committees, but at times we can agree. The other one that I was going to point out, and I appreciate all the time and effort that went in to the committee members that took the time to do this, but going forward, I would like to see, if possible, the committee members be actual residents of Prescott or tax-paying business owners of Prescott.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor McConnell?
You're smiling, like you know I'm going to have something negative to say here.
Not you.
I said this before, I don't think we're poorly paid. Everybody should have known what the job was worth when we ran for election. And in all honesty, I would rather see us as a council or the last council institute a raise as of the first of the next term. That way, you're responsible for it. And if people don't like what you've done, if that's the reason why they're not voting for you, then we'll vote for you. And fair enough. We institute a raise now, which is significant in the first term. That's fine. Everybody forgets about it by the next, but it still happens. And that smacks of upper tier levels of government. And we are not an upper tier level of government. We're right next to the people. We talk to the people on the street every day. They're our friends, they're our relatives, they're our neighbors. I'm not opposed to a wage increase, and I never have been, but I think it should be something within reason. I don't particularly believe that Gananoque is the right comparator, because Gananoque gets the proceeds from a casino, and that has pumped millions of dollars into their coffers over the last several years. We don't have that. We also don't have a lot of industry like Edwardsburg Cardinal does that pumps the big industrial tax coffers or tax dollars into our coffers. So like I said, I'm not opposed to wage increase. And the last time we did this, and I think the time we did it before, we had an external panel. They made a recommendation, and we took it. In this particular case, though, I don't think anybody expected that the cost of living was going to go up 6%. That's the strange thing. If it had been 2% again, or 1.5 or 2.5, we would have just passed it and nobody would really thought too much about it. But it's the 6%, and it's the big increase here. And what I expect is that we have employees who have a union contract and they are this year probably getting a 2% wage increase or somewhere in that neighborhood, which was negotiated a couple of years ago before the big inflation. I think we need to show some leadership and not take a big wage increase, because I think it's going to be very difficult to negotiate with a union a couple of years down the road when the people at the top of the trough, so to speak, have taken a big jump. What they can do, why can't we? You know, it's going to be very tough for Matthew to negotiate a contract under these circumstances. What I would like to see, and I think I said this before, if I didn't, I should have, is either or the lower of whatever the cost of living was the previous year or whatever the union wage was negotiated for the current year. I think that would be very fair, and that's what I would like to see. Now, if everybody doesn't swallow that or can't get behind that, then the second suggestion that I would have would be to forget about Gananoque. And I haven't actually looked at the figures to see how this would stack up, but we are between Edwardsburg, Cardinal, and Augusta physically. Here we are. One of them has a pay scale of, I think, 10,000. The other one has a pay scale of 14. If we're in the middle, let's be in the middle, halfway between. I would suggest one of those two things, and the first would be my preference. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Young?
Thank you, Mayor Schneider. Matthew, and I apologize, what is the difference between number one, where it matches what was budgeted with this consumer price index, and Gananoque?
So it's revaluing the base rate is what we're looking at. So in Gananoque's, it's, I believe let me just take a look. So their bylaw stipulated that the 2022 rate was 14,417 for councillors, and then CPI was added on top of that. So what we're doing with this particular one is revaluing the base amount and adding the CPI.
Okay.
And then CPI would be applicable for 24, 25, and 26.
Okay. I agree with everyone around the table that the reason that we had the committee was to consider their recommendation. I kind of am leaning towards number one because it matches what was budgeted. So we wouldn't have to look for that additional amount to be made up. It's just that's a consideration, and I think since the committee did meet and since they did recommend that we change to bump it up a bit, that might be what I would consider was number one.
One on page 40.
Oh, sorry, number one on leave it how it is with annual increases.
Okay.
And that it had already been budgeted for the year. So there wouldn't be any additional funds having to be taken from another pot and put into this pot.
Deputy Mayor Campbell?
Through you. I'm having trouble with the numbers, so can you tell me the percentage for each one of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, like, are we talking a 2% increase or? Gananoque one has that been calculated?
Yeah, I believe it's in the financial section, not the percentages, but certainly the values. So for councillors for 2023, it would be 15%, and for the mayor, 8.7.
Say that again, sorry.
Councillors, 15%. The mayor, 8.7.
That's what the committee recommended.
Correct.
And can we do the other ones, like number one, percentage wise, or maybe not now?
You can do whatever you want. I just simply brought back what the recommendation from the committee is, and that's what the recommendation is based on.
She's asking that.
Just math, I'm just asking.
Yeah, I think she's asking the percentage.
The percentage, whether it's
Yeah.
13,000 or whatever, I'm not,
Cost of living.
I'm asking me, can't.
I believe the first one is 6.9%. The second one would, it's either, would be different. We didn't calculate that one because it would be moving to the average, but then you would tack on 6.8 or the OMERS increase, which I believe was 5, or salary increase, which is 2.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I mean, this is a discussion that no one likes to have, and paid by the public, and it's like a no-win situation. We got here because 6.9 was too high, and 2% was too low. Our 6.9 is what our bylaw is. That's our bylaw, and we wanted to change our bylaw to go 2.0, so we created this working group, who then realizes that we haven't compared our rates since 2016. Here we are 7 years later now. Now that's something for future, you know, I think Councilor McConnell suggested maybe right before the next term, we do it,
I like that idea.
which is not a bad idea. It kind of puts the onus on the new crew. You're stuck with what the old crew said, but that's fine. So I'm not sure if the motion reads, council directs staff to prepare the bylaw for council recommendation based on the recommendations of the working group as outlined by staff report. And we have a mover and a seconder on that. I'm just going to call the question and we'll go from there. Okay. Question?
Before you call the question, is it possible, through you, Mayor Schenker, is it possible, Lindsay, to take a vote on the options?
Also through you, so right now, the motion that's on the table is the motion that Mayor Shankar read. But I don't think we want to take a vote on all options. We could, before where you put all the options in a motion and split the vote, sometimes that just kind of gets confusing. I'm not sure if just getting a feel for around the table prior to making the vote, if this motion gets voted down, there's no reconsideration of this motion, so this motion won't come back. So if there's an amendment to this motion, and I'm not trying to put words into anyone's mouths, because it's not my opinion that matters. So I'm not quite sure, you're wondering if every option could be a new motion.
Well, yeah, I think right now, if I'm correct, the motion, the option that's in the motion is option 3, right? And that's what we're voting on, right? We're not voting on, let's take option 1 or 2 or 3, it's just on 3.
Correct. And so through you, Mayor Shankar, if council were to decide, so hypothetically, if this got voted down, if a member of council wanted to put forward another motion, perhaps based on another recommendation from the report, that would be fine as well.
Okay. Thank you.
If we were to vote down this motion, would it not just go back to the original bylaw?
Yeah, at some point, you're going to have to make a decision whether you want to move forward with just the original bylaw. And right now, I believe there was a resolution to hold the increase until a determination was made. But if you want to pass that resolution, we can do that as well.
Well, I mean, we started this staff report with 2 two comments from counselors that, we've got a working group that we've put together, staff put together. They are good, solid people in the community who've come up with this recommendation. So I think we're just going to call the question and then take it, see what the next 30 seconds gives us. So
The motion is that we are
so we're
moving to go with the Gananoque model. Is that
right, but we're only implementing like half
Half
this year and half the next year. So a total difference of 7,000, you said?
Above budget, yes.
7,000 above budget. But then we won't have to do a review of our wages again till maybe 26. Right before the next election. Okay, so you want me to read that motion again? Yes?
I think we're good.
Yes, no? That council directs staff to prepare the bylaw for council remuneration based on the recommendations of the working group as outlined in staff report 39-2023, and that the bylaw come to the council meeting of June 19th for final discussion and consideration. All right. All in favor? 1, 2, 3.
You haven't voted yet.
All right, I'm gonna vote in favor of it. So it carries, correct? All right, we'll bring it back June 19th and we'll talk again. Thank you. All right. Next one is 12.2, staff report 40-2023, Tri-Council Joint Recreation Committee. Recommendation is that council approve the terms of reference for the Tri-Council Joint Recreation Committee and direct staff to put forward the following names as representatives from the town of Prescott. Councillor Leanne Burton, Samantha Miller, Manager of Community Services, a representative from South Granville Minor Hockey, a representative from Prescott Figure Skating Club, as well as one from Prescott and District Minor Soccer. Can I get a mover and seconder? Discussion. Councillor Lockett, Councillor Young, Matthew.
Thank you very much. So this is coming out of the joint council and the discussion around the draft terms and conditions for the committee. And so then if we agree with the terms and conditions or the terms of reference for the committee, then those members would be put forward on behalf of the town of Prescott. So that's how we developed it. Really what we were looking for was some large groups, some large organizations that not necessarily were going to focus on just the sports and recreation activities that they're involved in, but also have access to their members to be able to get feedback on the full gambit of recreational opportunities in Prescott. So, or the ability to collaborate with our neighbors in Augusta and Edwardsburg Cardinal. So really that was the reason for choosing those three organizations. And obviously Councillor Burton has responsibility for recreation. And then Samantha Judgman Miller has responsibility for community services. Thank you.
Any questions for Matthew? Mayor?
So do you feel that this is representing senior adults as well as the children, the balance of this committee?
So certainly, based on the three that we picked, there's a large group of parents, grandparents, people that participate or have their children, grandchildren participate. So really that's what we were trying to get at is more the network of individuals that would be included in this so that we could take a look at those opportunities to collaborate.
So I'm just throwing out Walker House, you're the rep, council rep at Walker House, so you would bring their items to the table. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Kirkby?
Yes, just on this committee, on to what Councillor, Mary Campbell was saying, is the same thing that I think there's some really big users of recreation here, right? But it's important for the tri-council to work together to plan events that meet all ages. And I'd love to see some kind of coordination of bus trips for seniors and teens and younger children, right? And that's something I think Edwardsburg Cardinal's doing this year. And we haven't been able to capitalize on sharing buses, sharing costs. And I'd really like to see it happen at this group. And then the bigger services, like you say, Walker House, right? And the early childhood and stuff like that would be important for this group. So I may be sitting on that group as a representative of one of them, but really I want to stress that, you know, there's a lot of individual stuff going on in each committee, in each community. And I think it could be better served if we kind of work together on a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. Councilor Burton?
Thank you. Years ago, they used to have a recreational committee for our community. And they always, you know, got together and talked about, you know, what is soccer doing? What is figure skating doing? What is Walker House doing? And so I think the whole idea is just to bring that aspect back. And I think this is just the start of a really great partnership with our neighboring municipalities. Because I mean, some people might know that, you know, there's baseball going on and, you know, and stuff like that. And we can bring that to the group, you know, or there's arts or something going on in different communities. But I think this is just the start of something really great, and we can build on that.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Councilor McConnell?
Well, I think what my compadres across the table have said is to the point. We have essentially minor soccer, minor hockey, and figure skating, which is minor as well, really. It's not there, but it is. But that's all children oriented, and an awful lot of the recreation that goes on in this community is not children oriented. We had a meeting here before COVID in the Lou Bevinson room, and I forget the purpose of the meeting, to be quite honest with you. I was there, but it had to do with recreation, and we had representatives from the churches there, the curling club, the lawn bowling club, Walker House, the library. What is considered recreation to me at my age may very well not be Justin at his age or Leanne at your age. So with something like this is the committee can get very unwieldy if you've got a representative from every organization and group, and that room was stuffed over there, and really it was nothing really could be done because of the quantity of people there. So this is what we're suggesting from Prescott. We have two other municipalities obviously are going to kick in as well. So immediately we have a large committee. But I am concerned with the input that the non-included recreation, the Legion, for example, is really a recreational facility for a lot of people. They play darts, they play cards, they sing karaoke, they have a variety of things. It's recreation for that age group. So I don't disagree with this. I think the committee's a great idea, and the three municipalities kicking in on it is a great idea. I'm just concerned that we're going to be focused, and a lot of our people are going to be missing out. I don't know really how to.
So this,
I'm sure that they're not.
I see where you're coming from. I know each, you know, when I'm looking at the terms of reference, each community will have can have 3, right? We do have Leanne who's Walker House. So as Deputy Mayor Campbell pointed out, she can advocate for them. Perhaps other communities might have a senior group, but knowing that going in, we can explore it that way to make sure we're covering everybody, not just the minors. But I know in the figure skating, there's adult skaters as well, and I know minor hockey is like Matthew mentioned, there's grandparents, parents, coaches. There's lots of different age groups. Councilor Lockwood.
Thank you, but, so actually the way I see it is the council, the representative of council, it would be, they would be the liaison between, say, the Legion and the Walker House, and so they would tap into anything you need me to take to the committee on your behalf this month, and so basically, Councillor Burton is an independent recreation person that's covering everything else under the umbrella. That's how I see your position.
Mm-hmm. As well as Sam probably too.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh, Councillor Young?
I was just thinking that, and this is just setting up the committee, but maybe a consideration could be that they could have a town hall night and, other groups such as curling club and lawn bowling and everybody else could come and express, what they would like to come or what they would like to see.
I think this is the very beginning phases of this, right? So there's lots of good ideas. Go ahead.
I think we are narrowing the focus down really to kids sporting groups. And you're saying that you hope that they can look outside their sport and talk about others, but I'm not convinced that they can do that. So, I know they play softball in Edwardsburg Cardinal and Augusta. So I don't know if you need these 3 community organizations, the hockey, the figure skating, and soccer. If you had one of those and say, you've got to look out for everybody else, I don't know. It seems to be really narrowing the focus down. And I know we're saying, well, we'll promise we'll remember the seniors and the dart players and the bridge players. But to me, this just looks like kids' sports.
Okay. Anyone else?
Take a shot, one more.
Sure.
I think South Grenville minor hockey will be representative of all townships, right? Because of it's played in 2 townships, but, for Prescott District Soccer Association, it's always going to be played in Prescott, pretty much. I'll just say that, you know what I mean? So although we have a bunch of players from other municipalities, soccer will continue to be played in Prescott. Maitland has their own soccer, stuff like that. So, I thought about the soccer, and I thought maybe that one possibly could come off because it really is just a Prescott sport. People come here to play it, but I don't think you'll ever see it move to, say, Augusta or Spencer or Cardinal or Edwardsburg.
There's a lot of kids from those 2.
There's 433.
Right, but a lot of them are not just from Prescott.
No, they're not, but it's mostly an organization that just stays in Prescott is my point, right? Yes, there's players from all across, but not like minor hockey where it's played at both townships, with Augusta being one of the higher ones.
So I think we need to go back to the reason for the committee, and that's areas of collaboration. So for soccer, while they might maintain their independence, is there a possibility of having a tournament between them? Is there a possibility of creating a united rep team? Is there a possibility of, doing inter-league play? Those types of things. So I think it's not necessarily, just focused on, are we amalgamating, are we merging, or that sort of thing. I think there's more of the opportunity, same with South Grenville minor hockey, is, how do we generate the ability to perhaps run tournaments between us and Spencerville, possibly Brockville, Because when you think of, tournaments that are run in Ottawa, you can be traveling 30, 40 minutes between rinks to be able to get to your next game. So there's no reason why we can't have when it comes to hockey of any age, to be able to take a look at, how do we bring in those larger tournaments? How do we, provide those avenues for collaboration? So really, that's the focus of the Tri-Council Recreation Committee, is the collaborative part, not who does what, where, when, why, and how.
Councilor Green?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on what Councilor Campbell said. I will be bringing information to the meeting about Walker House, about the library, what our community is doing, and Sam as well will be doing that. So I think having different moving parts in other our neighboring municipalities, their input too. They're gonna tell me what's going on in their community and what they're involved in and stuff. So I don't think in my opinion, it's not narrow, it's more broad. Because I'm not just gonna be a representative, I'm gonna be representing A, B, C, D, and E on this one. So, thank you.
Sorry, I was just commenting on, it seems to be more heavily based with the 3 community organizations. I think I'd be happy if there were 2.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Councilor McConnell, and then we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, okay, well, seems to be a concern with only youth, or possibly only youth, and the 3 organizations, but I've been thinking about it while I've been listening to what everybody is saying here. This isn't cut in stone. We are going to forward this to the other 2 municipalities, right? And this is our suggestion of our contribution. And I think when we get back from them what their contribution is, if, as Justin says, minor soccer or minor hockey, well, why would they put another one in when it's already here? They're gonna have a representative because it's an area thing. So what we may get from the other 2 municipalities is more of a broad input as far as organizations go. And if we find that it isn't at the end of the day, when we have everybody's, well, then maybe we can look at adjusting then.
Yeah, like I said, this is very early in the process. All 3 councils. All right, we have a mover and a seconder. Can I call the question? All in favor? Carried. The next staff report is on short-term rental licensing. Staff report 41-2023, short-term rental licensing, and is for information only. Oh, Matthew, there you go.
Thank you very much. So again, this is coming out of the Tri-Council meeting of May 25th. Township of Augusta is noting a pressing need to be looking at this type of bylaw. The bylaw that was provided an example from South Dundas, there's certainly some portions of it that I wouldn't suggest that we would implement. Those around having council be an appeal group for either refusing to issue a license or revoking a license, as well as exactly determining how we appealing a fine or that sort of thing. So would you mind? staff took a look at it. We're taking a look at it from the health and safety perspective. Does the premises follow the Ontario Fire Code? Is it following the building code? Are there smoke and carbon monoxide detection? Is there fire extinguishers, parking management, municipal bylaws? Are they people that are visiting aware of those types of things? So really that was our focus as opposed to anything else. And certainly more than happy to answer any questions there might be.
Thank you, Matthew. So this was brought up at our tri-council meeting, for those that weren't there. And Augusta is having an issue with it. I think he said on the weekend they had 3 or 4 more complaints. We haven't, as far as I know, better check with Sean.
We have a couple of areas that are interesting sometimes.
Interesting sometimes. Okay. Any other questions for Matthew on this? Matthew, do you need direction from us or it's just information?
If you want us to move forward, then we would require direction. If there's no willingness to move forward, then it was for information only.
Is it the will of council to move forward on this?
Information only is good with me.
I think we can park this and then if we need to, we can always come back to it. If maybe Sean, you can let us know if it
becomes an issue.
No problem.
All right, thank you. That's great. 12.4 is next, so Trace. Should she step out or just not discuss?
Usually I'll defer to the clerk.
Oh, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Speaker. Councillor Young can just vacate her seat. She doesn't actually have to leave the room, but she can just sit in the gallery and not take part in discussion or anything else.
Thank you. Ms. Welcome. 12.4 is staff report 42-2023. Liability and property insurance for proposal. Recommendation reads that council directs staff to proceed with the issuance of a request for proposal for liability, property, and cyber insurance coverage through the broker of record for the town of Prescott. Can I get a mover and a seconder for discussion? Councillor Kirkby, Councillor Burton, thank you. Matthew, it's yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So over the last several years, our liability and property insurance renewals have seen double-digit increases. And so we took a look back to see what we were paying 7 years ago. And over that period of time, we're paying approximately $150,000 more in property and liability premiums. A third of that is due to our changing insurance protection, such as adding flood and earthquake insurance, cyber insurance, as well as increasing our liability limit. But that still leaves approximately $100,000 in premium increases that we've experienced over that amount of time. So it was recommended by our town broker of record, Greg Kenny at Irving H. Miller, that we go and take a look at doing a request for proposal and seeing if there are other interested or even our current company would like to sharpen their pencil in terms of the coverages that we have and the premiums that we pay. So with that, we did receive a number of options to be able to review our insurance, in particular around property insurance and what's covered, what isn't, what are the specific named items, and is it appropriate? And so those are the types of things that we'll do at the same time while we're renewing our insurance this year. So council could decide not to proceed with the request for proposal, but at the same time, I think it's part of our fiduciary duty to do so.
Any questions, Councillor Kirkby?
To you, Mayor Shankar. There was a note in the notes about on where if we put it out to tender, we may only get one reply. Can you expand on that and what the implications are there?
Certainly. So if and it happened to another municipality that's relatively close. They went out to request for proposal. Only one company replied, and their insurance premiums almost doubled. That being said, their premiums seem low to begin with, whereas ours seem certainly on the higher side. Since then, there's also another player in the market that has been aggressively going after municipal business. And so we've seen that in the last 6 to 9 months that they've been offering considerably better rates.
So just so I'm clear though, if we put it to tender and only one company made the offer and it was higher, we can't go back to what we currently.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
Correct.
One last question. The earthquake insurance, is that part of a package deal that you get that, or is that something like, is earthquake separate coverage inside that?
Is separate coverage. However, along the St. Lawrence is a major fault line, and the fault line is as extensive as the San Andreas fault. So while it's not active, it would cause a substantial amount of damage if it were ever to move. So the decision of council, when they were taking a look at flood insurance, also made the decision to add earthquake insurance.
The cyber insurance, which is a big one. Is that, I guess I'm not gonna ask for an explanation of that, but I'm taking that covers if you're held for ransom, that they would pay the ransom or provide a service to get all the lost information back or locked information, is that?
That's correct, yes.
That seems to be a big one recently across the whole region. So I guess my question there is, I don't know when we last did this, but should we be looking more at that than any of the others? What I mean is just making sure that we're covered to today's market on that. So I don't know what the coverage was before, but should we be looking at a higher?
So certainly those are some of the things that we can bring back as part of the renewal. What we do know is we're one of very few municipalities that in Ontario that have been able to qualify for cyber insurance. And the vast majority insurance companies have not been willing to look at the municipal sector simply because of the number of incidents that have occurred and the massive amounts of loss they've incurred.
So are we able to get that cyber insurance because we have a better, more secure network than most? Or is that just with the current?
So we're able to get it because we have policies and procedures as well as infrastructure in place that helps reduce and mitigate the impact of it.
So, sorry, to expand on that, is there a possibility when we put this out to tender that we could lose the cyber?
It's a separate policy, and so at this point, we wouldn't see that it would necessarily need that, because very few of the companies insure cyber separately or as part of a package, and so in that case, we would just stay with our current provider, unless it could be bundled as part of an overall, because currently it's not part of our core of property and liability insurance.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Justin. I think you got all the questions. Anyone else? No? No? Okay. All in favor? Thank you. Thanks, Matthew. Yeah, come on back there. You know? 13 is resolutions, nothing in there. 14 is bylaw. Vince, we're getting there. I thought you left. I'm like, we were so close.
Hold it any longer.
Okay, 14.1 is the noise bylaw. The motion reads that bylaw 23-2023, being a bylaw to prohibit and regulate noise within the town of Prescott, be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councilor Kirkby, Mayor Campbell. Before we have any discussion, I'm just going to have Matthew give us an overview of the noise bylaw for our guests.
Thank you very much. And so we started with a working group of council to take a look at this bylaw. We looked at several, as well as our current one that was, I believe, almost as old as I am. So certainly it required a little bit of updating. We started as a starting point with the township of Edwardsburg Cardinal. They had recently completely redone their bylaw, and then we started morphing it to the town of Prescott. So really, the crux of it is that between Monday and Friday, after 11 p.m. and before 7 a.m., you would not be able to create a lot of noise when it comes to construction equipment, when it comes to mowing your grass, those types of things. Saturday, Sunday, and statutory holidays, it's from 11 p.m. at night to 9 a.m. The following morning. So with that, we also wanted to address outdoor live concerts. And so we've created an application that people can apply for. It's free of charge as long as it's within the hours of applicability. And they would put the application into town. We would make sure that it's not conflicting with anything else, and then approve based on the parameters of that. If there is a request to go beyond the 11 p.m., then we've provided an application form for that as well. And we have noted that an exemption for outdoor performances would extend to 1 a.m. on Friday, Saturday, and statutory holidays. That's really the majority of what we're trying to address in this, in terms of clearly identifying the hours, updating it, as well as addressing outdoor performances. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I'm going to go to council. Is there any questions of this from Matthew? And then I'm going to offer Vince if you have any questions.
No, not really. It's basically what it pretty much always been, no?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's new.
Okay.
The old one was, I think, from the 80s.
Well, the old one would have been police enforced, would it not? 11 o'clock, that type of thing, no?
Technically, by law, couldn't enforce it, but we had to do it through a Part 3 summons, whereas this one here will allow us to do it through the AMPS process.
Oh, okay, so basically you're just doing what they were doing before. Oh, okay, I heard all kinds of things, couldn't rev up your car, couldn't play music in your car loud, that kind of thing, yeah.
No, eh?
No, not really, not unless you run it for 10 hours straight.
Yeah. No.
Like I said, but I mean, there's a whole bunch of exemptions, including the fact that your business would be exempt during the normal hours and stuff like while it's going on and stuff, just like it would for any other industrial place, so.
That doesn't sound like any big changes, that's basically why I'm here anyways, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, right on.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Very educational. In a good way. Thank you. Take care.
All right, then, all in favor? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, under Schedule C, bottom of the document. Through you, I guess, from Matthew. Number 9, it says this is a general exemption. Activities and noise as part of a community event. And then you have 11 being town sanctioned events and activities. I just want to know what we mean by number 9.
So that would be if it's something the town is either supporting or sponsoring, but not necessarily run by the town. But it could also include events run by the town.
So an exemption, so we could have a biker rally, it's a community event, they're gonna rip around the streets and play poker run or something, is that a community event?
If it's sanctioned by the town and they have a special event permit, then yes.
Okay, so I'm still not seeing the difference between 9 and 11. Sorry.
Okay, so if they're the same, then it's just reinforcing.
Oh, man,
Yeah, please.
this might be it. Activities and noise as part of a community event, fireworks would be noise as part of a community event. That would be our Canada Day celebrations. Noise by the run that the folks have through town here in May, that would be a sanctioned event. It's not put on by us, but we're sanctioning it. Would that be in the ballpark, Matthew?
I believe so.
Got it right for a change.
Okay, thank you.
Does that mean they don't have to be done by 11 o'clock? Is that what that means? General exemption?
No, so go back and take a look.
Sorry. She made me think about that.
But if someone's having a wedding, and they.
So that's a private event.
That's not a community event, okay.
If I could.
Please.
So the difference between 9/11 is really a special event, whether or not it's sanctioned by the town or not. So for example, and I'm not saying it could happen, but say someone came in and asked for a special event permit and they didn't want any of the town's help in putting on the event. And we take a look at it and we decide it meets all the things that it's going to be normally done by 11 o'clock and all that other things. Then at that point, we give them a special event permit. And the noise that's associated with that event would then be exempt from the noise bylaw. So take something like Folk Fest. That's something that is sanctioned by the town. But say someone decided to have a private event that wasn't asking anything from the town. So they come to us to ask for a special event. We do decide to grant it, but we granted it because it meets all the requirements of what we look for in a community event and a special event. Often they will be the same thing. 99% of the time they will be the same thing. But there is the odd time it could happen. For example, maybe minor hockey decides to do a car wash or something like that. It's not really being hosted by the town. And don't get me wrong, they wouldn't have to pay for an event permit, but they should tell the town it's happening, and then at that case, it would be fine, so.
Okay, thank you. So they still have to apply.
Yeah, they still have to follow all the other rules. It's just once they've got permission for it, it's then exempt from the bylaw. And one of the questions we'd ask is, how much noise do you think you're going to produce? And if we thought it was too much, it would be a concern. The Fort Town Night Run's a prime example. A few years ago, they weren't really sanctioned by the town, but they were still doing the event. So they still had an event permit, and they warned us that they were going to be shooting off the cannon. It was granted permission at the time.
Okay, so then I'm looking at 7, noise related to activities permitted under a town approved exemption application.
Same concept.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It's just to try to cover everything. Most of the time, you're going to find it's going to fall under number 11 because it's usually a town sanctioned event. But there could be the odd time when someone will bring it in and they didn't want the town's help, but we still are making sure that it meets the community's needs.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Fourteen point 2 is a refreshment vehicle bylaw. The motion reads that bylaw 24-2023, a bylaw to license, regulate, and govern refreshment vehicles in the town of Prescott be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Young, Councillor Burton. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Oh, good. 14.3 is the appointment of a bylaw enforcement officer's bylaw. Bylaw enforcement officer's bylaw, okay. Bylaw 25-2023, being a bylaw to appoint municipal bylaw enforcement officers for the corporation of the town of Prescott, be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. All right. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Kirkby, Counselor Lockett, thank you. Any further questions? Any discussion on this one?
Where does Samantha live? Any idea? Anybody?
Yes.
Where?
She
Lives in the town of Prescott.
Yep.
Okay. No, the reason I asked is we've got 3 bylaw officers, and I wasn't aware of where Samantha lived, but 2 of them live outside of town. It seems to me we should have had at least one in town, in case somebody's called after hours, it would be convenient. And apparently we do.
Kirkby?
Yeah, so under this, all 4 people will be able to enforce bylaws, and it will be non-complaint driven, is that correct? Are we moving to that?
It depends on the bylaw and whether or not it's a passive bylaw that's complaint driven or if it's an active bylaw. So for example, parking is active. When we see someone misparking, we give a ticket. If it's one of the other ones that's more concern driven, and like I say, council at any time could direct staff to change the policy on how it's done, so.
Yeah, sorry, Sean. I thought we were at that stage now of where we were going.
We're certainly going more that way, but we haven't taken it for all the bylaws and all the directions, just due to the fact that we only have approximately 36 to 40 hours a week in bylaw enforcement, so.
Right, so we have 4 people here, and I believe I seen another person driving around this weekend in a town vehicle. Maybe I'm wrong.
That would have been the casual inspector who's called in for special events.
Mr. Swan?
Yes,
Yep.
and then the other person is being appointed to assist at the office level mainly.
Yep.
Where the taxi licenses, refreshment vehicles licenses, all those need to be signed by a bylaw officer.
Yep.
And she actually processes it all and then hands it to me to say sign. So we used to do the same thing. Donna too had permission to sign off on these. And now that Joanne has been made full-time, it seemed appropriate to also name her as a bylaw officer, so she has the right to sign those licenses and stuff. Not that I'm anticipating her going out and actively enforcing, but if we were desperate, I suppose we could ask her to, so.
So I guess, Sean, the 4, and then we have Mr. Swan and one other person. How often are they out in the community in a town vehicle, by the way, enforcing bylaw? Is that?
I'm a little confused, but the question, Samantha's always in the truck. Dave, when he's called in, is used in the truck.
In this weekend he was. In the previous years down at the waterfront, it was a personal vehicle drove down the biking path with no signs or nothing indicating that he was representing the town. Not that I'm trying to get into that. My real question is, we have 4 people here enforcing bylaw. I'm just wondering, how often are we out enforcing bylaw? And I know there's a lot of bylaw behind the scenes, but the ones that are visible to the public, dogs off the leash, parking on King Street.
So if I
Matthew has a comment.
If I may, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the purpose of this bylaw isn't to increase the bylaw enforcement or to change how we are currently enforcing the bylaws. It is to name people that are able to sign off on certain aspects of bylaws. So obviously, our director of operations does not actively go out and enforce bylaws, but if there is an emergency situation where he needs a vehicle towed because we have an emergency that we have to address from an infrastructure perspective, that's why he's on the list. I think it was mentioned that Joanne, from a licensing processing perspective, can sign off on that. So if we want to have a separate discussion around bylaw enforcement, that sort of thing, which I believe we did right at the beginning of our term of council, then certainly we can bring that back, but this isn't the attempt of that bylaw.
Okay, so this is just more from an administrative.
Correct.
Part of it. Thank you.
Should Dave be on this list?
That's good. I'm wondering.
So Dave's bylaws are still active, and so we have a separate bylaw for him.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 15 is new business. We have 3 items under item 15. 15.1 is a resolution from the Regional Municipality of Waterloo regarding the protecting the privacy of candidates and donors. This was brought forward by Councillor Kirkby.
Yeah.
And Matthew, did you have a summary on this?
I really don't. Because it's more to do with candidates and donors. It's not something that staff has experience with. So
okay,
just leave it at that.
You want to talk on it?
Yeah, so I think, and I'm trying to get to, my computer's froze up here, but I reviewed this last night and pretty much what the motion is that I'm seeking to support is when you're running for a municipal election or a school board position, a donor of more than $100, right, has to be listed and their personal information, their name, their home address is included for the public to view. And what the motion is asking for is for that still to be recorded, and the name can still be shared, but the home address be withheld under the Freedom of Information. So I had it kind of written up here a little bit, but I was hoping to be able to, I'm froze up. But the long and short of it is, do we really need to include to the public the donor's home address? I would be fine with the municipality they're from, but not their home address. I don't think that needs to be made public. So that's where that motion comes from me.
Fair enough. Any questions for Councillor Kirkby?
Why?
Pardon?
Why? The obvious.
So part of the reason why is there's been some targeting, right? So it was more, as politics gets more and more, why do you need the home address? You know what I mean? Why do you need the donor's home address to be shared to the public versus saying they lived in Brockville instead of 123 King Street? So really, I think what it's about is trying to prevent people from showing up at your doorstep that disagree with you or disagree with who you support by funding certain councillors. And in the motion there, what it says is donors are reluctant to make a donation based on that information being shared. It's no different than when I ran for council, right? It listed my home address. I mean, I still kind of struggled. They could have said a resident of Prescott. I didn't feel they needed to list my home address.
That's a little different though. You were a candidate.
I was a candidate.
Somebody might want to knock on your door and say, I'd like to support you.
Yep. I would rather them send an email or call me on the phone versus showing up at the house. But I mean, that's the new way. There's so much technology. I don't think you need to show up at people's door. And I don't think that information needs to be shared. It's still on record.
Ms. Belkamp, how do we proceed?
So through you, Mayor Shankar, if council wishes to support this resolution from the Regional Municipality of Waterloo, I do have a draft motion that reads that council of the corporation of the town of Prescott support the Regional Municipality of Waterloo's resolution regarding protecting the privacy of candidates and donors. And that the resolution be forwarded to all the same agencies that are listed in the original resolution as well.
You want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Seconder, we have a secondary, Councilor Burton. All in favor? There you go. Pass, thank you. Okay, the next one then is item 15.2, resolution from the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities regarding bail reforms. Councilor Kirkby, it's all yours.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Shankar. So this was another one that I pulled out, the motion. And really what they're talking about here, and I think we've all seen it in the news on Facebook, is the chronic persistent offender, right? And so what the Northern Communities Association here is seeking is a letter for support to create a designation of a chronic persistent offender, allow community impact statements at bail and at bail hearings, creating a reverse onus in the bail for all firearm offenses, all bail-related gun charges to go to the Superior Court for bail release. So when I read this, I think of the constant offender that's, currently there's nowhere for that individual to go. They go to the police, they go to court, they're released back on the street, day after day, month after month. What I see this as being is it's a little bit of a repeal on Bill C-75. It's putting onto the federal government some onus to start creating a better program that doesn't just keep releasing the same person on a monthly basis back into the community, that sucks the funds and lives out of our police services, our fire services, our paramedic services, puts a system in place that hopefully can provide some reform to these individuals or a reprieve to the townships and the people that they're having a negative impact on.
Okay, Ms. Delcamp, you probably have a motion for this one?
I do, through you, Mayor Shankar, I do have a draft motion if council wishes to support the resolution of the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities regarding bail reform.
You want to move that?
I'll move that.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor McConnell? Any discussion? All in favor? Done. 2 for 2, Councillor Kirkby. Okay, item 15.3 is information regarding call to recycle collection site. This is all yours, Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. So Call to Recycle Inc. is a not-for-profit organization. And what they do is the town of Prescott could become a depot. So as we know, there's lots of toxic chemicals that in batteries. So it would be a depot for single-use batteries, such as, remote control, keyless entry, all of that, rechargeable batteries, and e-mobility batteries that are used for like e-bikes and hoverboards and things like that. So what that would be is that you would take your used batteries to the depot, drop them off in a safe spot, in a safe box, a drop box that they have set up. There's no charge to the municipality. It's funded by the producers of the batteries. It's kind of like with the recycling now, how it goes back to the producers. So it would just be nice for our municipality to have a depot that we could safely get rid of our batteries and not put them in our garbage. I know Township of Augusta is a depot, and I believe Canadian Tire Store in Prescott. But possibly it could be a spot, when the yard waste days, maybe those were the days that you could take your batteries as well to the drop box.
If I may, Matthew, do we have an area that we could collect these? Like, would it be the barn?
So currently, we are a depot drop off from another company. It's called Raw Materials, but it's only for household batteries. So the difference with this one is the mobility scooters. Those can be considerably larger and more difficult to handle. So think what we would like to do is kind of a two-pronged approach, find out a little bit more information from the one being suggested, as well as what mobility batteries, how we would have to handle them, things like that. Just because they might be more appropriately handled by Canadian Tire that are used to using automotive batteries and that sort of thing. So I think, and if that's the case, then we would promote, where to put your mobility batteries, as well as the fact that we do have a program and the drop off is town hall for your batteries, for your household single-use batteries as well as rechargeable.
And I mean, another idea may be, if I may, in the spirit of collaboration, we can direct people to Augusta. Take your mobility scooter there. Maybe. Councillor Vaca?
Like I was going to ask, where would the depot be, and who sets it up? And how often do they pick them up?
So.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just, from what I read, they set up a drop box, and then it depends, I guess, if there's a lot, then they will do something different, but they have a drop box, and I think it's every 3 months. Encourage households to drop off every 3 months.
And so with the one that we have a little cardboard box, and then we just request to them once it fills that they come and get it and appropriately just recycle them.
So if I may, my next question, if Canadian Tire is already doing it, do we need to redo it?
I think at the very least, we need to promote this. That's the one thing that I've learned is that, and to be perfectly honest, it's been quite a while since anyone's dropped their batteries off at town hall. So I think, at the very least we need, and I'm just looking at the website, Home Hardware in Prescott we would confirm if they're still doing so. Canadian Tire in Prescott, and then the town of Prescott. So those are all great opportunities to reinvigorate and get that message out there.
Through you, Mayor Schmaker, if nothing else, just to, like you say, Matthew, to educate so that we know, because I didn't know there was a spot in Prescott that we could take our batteries to. And it's just, it's too easy just to throw them in the garbage.
Okay.
But I know this call to recycle, they're really well known. They have a lot of safety, like a lot of education too. So even if we didn't go with them in terms of education, some municipalities have, when they're trying to kickstart their battery recycling, they'll actually have like the first 10 residents that bring their batteries to the depot, wherever that would be, they'll give them a gift card or something like that, just to get that whole education piece going again. So
Ms. Young, how would you like to proceed with this? You want to just leave it as information, or you want us to look into it a bit more?
yeah, maybe if staff could look into what the current provider does as opposed to maybe compare the two, and if nothing else, maybe an education campaign,
Social media.
the promotion.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Questions? No?
It's just a suggestion, if it's been sometimes that people have been dropping batteries off here, maybe it's just because people aren't coming here enough, maybe someplace that is, more frequented, like Tim Hortons, for example.
Prescott soccer, what is 400 kids? You got a container there.
It's a thought.
No?
We have one. Oh, yeah, the pen's up.
Stands up.
So
wait.
I did note that Canadian Tire is listed on both the call to recycle as well as the raw materials one. The interesting thing is the closest one that does mobility is quite a drive from us.
Oh.
So you're in Drummond before you can get the mobility. So not every depot takes those mobility batteries because my understanding is they're very close to a car battery in size and weight.
Oh.
Yeah, that had to be under 5 kilograms.
Oh, if But man, that begs the question, what do the garages do with all the batteries?
So they have a private company that they would work through. They just don't take public donations.
Yeah. All right, we'll look forward to that. Sorry, 16 is notice of motions. There is no notice of motions. But there's a handful of mayor's proclamations today. 17.1 is the longest day of smiles, June 18th, 2023. Whereas Operation Smile Canada is a global medical charity providing free, life-changing surgeries and medical care to children born with cleft conditions around the world, and whereas every 3 minutes, a child is born with a cleft condition, and a lack of access to safe, effective surgery means that easily treatable conditions like cleft lip and cleft palate can become fatal. Operation Smile Canada believes every child born with a cleft condition deserves an exceptional surgical care. And whereas the longest day of smiles is an annual smile movement where we challenge you to take action, get creative, and fundraise to spread smiles with family, friends, schoolmates, peers, work colleagues, and pets. And whereas on June 18th, 2023, the community of the town of Prescott is encouraged to celebrate the longest day of smiles by sharing hashtag longest day of smiles on social media. Therefore, the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott does hereby proclaim June 18th, 2023 as the longest day of smiles and commends its thoughtful observance to all citizens of our municipality. Dated today, 5th day of June, 2023. Next time I want to see these before I say them. If they're too long, I'm no. All right, the next one, Deputy Mayor, will be the next one is June 8th, so just around the corner, World Ocean Day. Whereas Thursday, June 8th, 2023 is World Ocean Day. World Ocean Day is the United Nations Day for celebrating the role of the ocean in everyday life and inspiring action to protect it. And whereas counties around the world, including Canada, probably countries, including Canada as a prominent leader, have committed to protecting 30% of their ocean territory by 2030 in order to reverse nature loss in the ocean and safeguard at-risk marine life. And whereas the ocean is home to hundreds of species at risk, vulnerable ecosystems, and is a crucial carbon sink shielding us from the worst of climate change. And whereas the ocean produces over half of the world's oxygen and absorbs 50 times more carbon dioxide than our atmosphere, therefore protecting the ocean is in the interest of all life on Earth and communities both coastal and inland, as it is essential to our shared future. Halfway, guys. And whereas it is a jurisdiction of the Government of Canada under various pieces of legislation and regulation to establish marine protection areas in consultation with Indigenous peoples. Many Indigenous nations and communities are leading in the conservation of the ocean and have been stewards of the ocean since time immemorial. And whereas it is important for municipal leaders to demonstrate support for actions to safeguard the ocean, as they have for action on climate change and other environmental matters of national importance. And whereas in celebrating the ocean and protecting its habitats and ecosystems, we can together raise the profile of ocean conservation's critical role in improving planetary health and slowing the crisis of species collapse and ecosystem decline. Therefore, the Corporation of the Town of Prescott does hereby proclaim June 8, 2023 as World Ocean Day and supports national and international efforts to protect 30% of the ocean by 2030. Dated this day, 5th of June, 2023. Last one is for the month of June is considered Seniors Month. Whereas Seniors Month is an annual province-wide celebration, and whereas seniors have contributed and continue to contribute immensely to the life and vibrancy of this community, and whereas seniors continue to serve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and important and active members of this community, and whereas their contributions past and present warrant appreciation and recognition, and their stories deserve to be told, and whereas The health and well-being of seniors is in the interest of all, further adds to the health and well-being of the community. And whereas the knowledge and experience seniors pass on to us continues to benefit all. Therefore, the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott does hereby proclaim the month of June as Seniors Month in the Town of Prescott and encourages all citizens to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of our seniors. Dated this date, 5th of June, 2023. Thank you. No media? Closed session. So we're going to move into item 19.1 is closed session. I have a motion that reads that council moves into closed session at 8:06 PM to discuss matters pertaining to 19.1 approval of closed session minutes, 19.2 approval of tribe council closed session minutes, 19.3 litigation under section 239 2C of Municipal Act, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, and that the CAO, treasurer, clerk, economic development officer, and deputy clerk remain in the room. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councilor Kirkby, Councilor Burton, all in favor?